Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for the Cuckoo's Fiancee, Chapter 65. When we last left our heroes, Nagi and Hiro had run away from the engagement thing. We didn't quite get a lot of details on what exactly Hiro was doing at the moment. The two of them ran off. And they sort of, initially kind of lamented their lack of money, how Nagi's only got like 1,000 yen. And they're hungry, and they have some food, and they sort of... Hiro starts to kind of unveil herself, I guess, to Nagi, revealing that she didn't want anyone to get close to her while she was engaged to this guy, who we still have not met yet. But she kind of, explains that everything she had done was to put herself on so high a pedestal that no one could come up to her, but Nagi still tried anyway. And she kind of thanks him for, as she puts it, trying to change her destiny. But then Erika shows up, puts a damper on all their fun having, and takes them back to the Segawa Shrine to sort of talk everything out with Hiro's mother. And that's where we left off last time, so let's jump right on in. We have this ReZero crossover art that got dropped a few days ago. It looks nice. I don't know enough about ReZero to really comment on it, but there it is. Anyway, our actual cover, 65th Foul, without me, you're just completely hopeless. And our picture here is, of Sachi in, cat ears and a tail and, a fake paw, eating one of those, fish-shaped food, I forget what they're called. Anyway, fiancé plus beloved plus Hiro's mom, an elopement reflection meeting. And so we open kind of where we left off during the meeting. With that being said, this is, Erika. He's a troublesome one. Nagi-kun can be like that sometimes. And Miss Segawa takes a sip of tea. Oh, well, that's a problem. And then she just pours some tea, and Erika, mindlessly munching on her food as Nagi and Hiro sort of sit there in shame. Erika continues, wow, these crackers are really tasty. Oh, you can tell. Those are our specialty, you see. And Hiro kind of, looks at Nagi, who is apparently, physically shrinking. Umino-kun's shrinking. And Nagi is just sitting there, in a cold sweat. What is even happening right now? My fiancé and my crush's mom are having a great time putting me down. All of my crush is listening. And Erika just continues as Nagi gets smaller and smaller in the background. And furthermore, even though Nagi-kun's usually a deliberate and paranoid nervous wreck, for some reason he sometimes spontaneously decides to assert himself in unproductive ways like he did this time. There's absolutely no telling what he'll do, and frankly it's been a huge bother. She's just going at him, and Nagi's not comfortable. That sort of thing just doesn't work these days, And here, Miss Segawa sort of admonishes him, unacceptable. You should be more considerate of the people around you before you act. Absolutely. And Nagi is now, a tenth of the size of the pillow he was kneeling on. As Hiro thinks, he shrunk down to mouse size. And it's kind of interesting how much, how seriously they're taking this little visual gag. Because in the next panel, he's still in that size. We see him compared to Erika, and he's, super tiny. Talking to Hiro-chan's mom about all of this is somehow cathartic. All my pent-up daily stress is gone now. And Nagi just looks up at her and actually says, what? And then he kind of catches himself. No, I'm in no position to object right now. And then Miss Segawa continues, but to think that the two of you were engaged to each other. When Hiro brought you two over, she didn't make it seem that way at all. And Hiro finally kind of steps in. That's because back then, I didn't even know about the relationship either. And her mom just coughs, and Hiro shuts up, kind of embarrassed, as Erika chimes in. Yes, that's true. We keep it a secret at school. And besides, when my parents decided on their own who I was going to marry, I also resisted. Okay. So here's the thing. There's something about that phrasing there that feels past tense. I also resisted. Past tense, which kind of goes to imply that Erika is much less opposed, as we've kind of been noting for the past 60 chapters, is much less opposed to marrying Nagi as she was at the beginning. But also she's vocalizing it more now. It's been a continuing theme that she's getting more and more confident in her feelings for Nagi. Anyway, Nagi kind of like sits up at that. And that's apparently news to the Sagawas, as Hiro's mom says, "Oh, is that so? Erika-chan?" Nagi thinks, "Come to think of it." And we flash back to what I think was the title line of Chapter 2. "I'm gonna cause an uproar to convince them. I have no intention of getting married. Amano-san was like that. I wouldn't even talk to Papa, much less to Nagi-kun, who was my fiancé. But in the time that we spent together, I discovered that approach wouldn't work. I wasn't resisting. I was only running away." And we flash back to a bunch of their moments throughout the series. Specifically, I think that's them on the bus right before they end up kind of revealing their living situation to Hiro. Them watching the fireworks right before Hiro finds out about the engagement. When Erika runs up to Nagi after they get the idea the brother might be in town. A few other moments I don't quite recognize. And Nagi is sort of stunned and looks at her. In the first place, we never even faced the fiancé problem head on, did we? I'm curious, what exactly, like, if what she was doing wasn't resisting, what is resisting? Like, what is push? I mean, maybe it's just that, like, if she wanted to resist, she would, like, stay away from Nagi, and she didn't do that. Which would be why the flashbacks she turns to are all, like, moments of time she spent with Nagi. But I'm also kind of curious what she means by never even face the fiancé problem head on. Because I feel like Nagi definitely did. He went to talk to Mr. Amano about it. Anyway, Erika then continues, "And that's why I was hoping you two would face each other head on too." And Hiro kind of pouts there, as Miss Sagawa says, "Well, Erika-san, though Hiro is my precious and only child, the issue of this shrine succession still stands. To make her perfectly aware of that, a certain amount of discipline is a given." And Hiro just sort of barely even reacts to that. Erika kind of like freezes up in shock, and Nagi just thinks, "Of course. But that's only because I want Hiro to be happy. It seems the two of us need to have a proper conversation." And Hiro is kind of stunned there. "Mom?" And then Miss Sagawa kind of like nods, like solemnly. "We apologize for the trouble we've caused." I think that's Erika there. Okay, so I'm kind of not quite certain where we're going with this. So is that sort of her mom saying that she's sort of reconsidering the engagement? Is that what's going on there? Or is it sort of, I can't think of what else or maybe just, Miss Sagawa trying to tell Hiro, like convince her verbally or intellectually that she needs to have this engagement rather than just blindly forcing her. I'm not quite sure which is the route that the narrative is kind of pulling towards. Anyway, later that night, Hiro is talking to Erika and Nagi, and she says, "I can't thank you enough for today. Even though I said I'd stand up to destiny, I was only running away. You made me realize that." So yeah, I think the point is that, like, she maybe, right, because wasn't it kind of unclear if she ever told her parents why she was upset? Or told her parents that she was opposed to the engagement? I feel like that was kind of unclear. And I might be misremembering something somewhere. But I don't think that was ever made clear. Anyway, Erika kind of responds, "I think it might have been a bit cheeky to say that right in front of your mom. I'm glad I could help. Unlike a certain someone," and she turns back to Nagi, kind of like jolts. And she gives this little grin. I do think, I kind of called attention to this last week. I do think a little bit of Erika's motivations is she doesn't want, if Nagi and Hiro run away together, she can no longer be with Nagi. And I feel like there's a little, like, that smile is a little vindictive. And I think she's like, you're not getting away from me that easy, or something like that. Anyway, I think this is either Hiro or Miss Sagawa arriving. "Erika-chan," and here Erika looks back. It makes me think it's someone arriving. Oh no, it's just Hiro run. I think they turned to leave, and Hiro runs up and gives her a hug. Next time, let's go shopping again. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming for me. And Erika stops there, and it sort of smiles a little solemnly. And Nagi looks away, all embarrassed. This is awkward. And then she turns to wink at Nagi, and you too, Umino-kun. And Nagi stops, and sort of turns away and blushes. I did nothing but mess up. And Erika just cuts him through. You sure did. Wah! And then apparently a little bit later, as they're walking home, as Nagi just groans. And Erika gets onto him. Stop whining. What's wrong with you? I was way too lame back there. I went and eloped with my crush or something. Only to be saved by my fiancé to apologize to her mother. And Erika kind of like takes his complaint in for a second and thinks for a minute. That wasn't lame. Huh? You're strong, Nagi-kun. I would have died of embarrassment if I were you. I mean, he basically did. He turned into a mouse for a little while there. So I'm curious how much of a sort of stern, almost like tired, like embarrassed mom persona Erika puts on earlier in the chapter is just sort of a front, a sort of, not really a front, but like, it's there more for politeness' sake, more than her actual beliefs. Because she does seem to think here that Nagi was kind of cool with what he did. And part of that is, I think, her ever-growing attraction to him. But also, I don't know. Because, like, she had the exact opposites statements earlier in the chapter. So it's a little unclear. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. I feel like I just lost my train of thought somehow. Anyway, Nagi's just sort of stunned at her statement there, and then is just even more embarrassed. And then Erika walks over to a vending machine. These days, the best offense is a good defense. Here, cola. And she hands him a drink. You did good today. And Nagi's just kind of stunned at the drink somehow. Hey, did you know? You can pay at vending machines with smartphones. Nagi's just, mine can't do that. Is that what the shock's about? That she normally doesn't have money on her or something? Because I feel like it's just the same. Maybe it's continuing. Like, there is sort of a again, almost motherly persona in this interaction. A different kind of motherly persona than what we saw in the Sagawa scenes. You know, she's no longer, like, apologizing for him. But the whole giving your son a treat for, like, doing good, that feels like a mom thing. Which is an interesting role. Like, she's always been kind of the naive, doesn't know a lot about the world character. And has she kind of grown without us really realizing? I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like we're sometimes so in Nagi's head that, like, Erika could have grown without Nagi even noticing. Anyway, he looks at the drink, hot corn soup in the middle of summer, and he takes a sip. Apparently that's just a soda you can get, a hot corn soup flavored soda. But okay. But this is unexpectedly nice. No doubt about it. Ice cold cola is the best. And Nagi looks at her, so you got cola for yourself. It's the hottest drink this summer. Besides, you're right as rain now. Nagi sort of sits and stews in his own feelings for a sec. I really am powerless. Today was just a painful reminder. Before I know it, whenever I'm in trouble, I always end up relying on you. Even now, if I were alone, I don't think I could pick myself back up. That's why and Erika turns over to him. So what you're trying to say is, and she gives a wink and like a pose, without me, you're just completely hopeless. And there's our money shot, by the way, in case that wasn't obvious. And Nagi sort of like acknowledges her response and gets kind of mad that she had to go and like phrase it like that. You don't have to say it. And Erika just grins. And it's you know, both their like blushing faces, it's clearly a very like particular form of flirting, what's going on there. Anyway, she says, let's head back. And then we cut to another scene. So what about the other girl? Ah, well, this is Sachi. She already went home. And it's fucking Mr. Amano. Whatever the fuck he has going on. But to think that Nagi-kun had a girl he liked. It seems like he has some game, too. I wonder who he takes after. Ha 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 ha. And Sachi's just ready to get out of this conversation. Please come home already. However, this deserves some consideration. And he's looking at this picture of the three girls and Nagi in the background. I mean, the thing with Mr. Amano is that his whatever his goal is so fucking vague that it's hard to work out anything of what he's saying. Anyway, next time, Nagi's first love arrives. A new twist complicates the love quadrangle. After all these chapters teasing Aya, it's time to get her. Okay, so let's talk about this chapter. So I think there's a part of it that I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I mean, I can see. I am lingering on that resisting running away dichotomy there, and I get what Erika's going for. That, like, you know, by not confronting her parents about this, she was not really putting up a fight, especially because she was still living with Nagi. But also, she did confront the Uminos about it, as recently as, like, 56, right? When they go for the birthday party. Because even the chapter title there, What's Important is That You Two Are Happy, is, like, the Uminos' response to, you know, should they stay engaged. But I guess the real force behind it has always been Mr. Amano, and she is, as I recall, has just not even had a conversation with him in, like, the entire show, in the show's entire run so far. And even around the end of 2020, she was like, hey, Nagi, don't talk to my dad. Let's not deal with that. So I definitely can see her point. It took me a while to sort of, like, quite grasp what she was going for, but I do get it. Just like Hiro apparently has never had a conversation with her parents about this, as her mom, it seems the two of us need to have a proper conversation, is very, like, they have not talked about this at all. Hiro's actions were entirely on her own, but I think that's been left kind of vague so far. Like, I feel like it would have helped if we had known that they had never talked about this. That Hiro would just often run away on her own. Either way, I like the idea that the whole problem here is, you know, it's not even miscommunication, it's just, like, not communicating. And their problems are solved pretty easily by just talking it out. Which, like, that's something I can relate to pretty well, of, like, you know, things would be a lot easier if you just talked about your problems. So that's all. It's a good resolution. It's not quite as revelatory as to Hiro's mental state as last week was, and of course nothing is reaching the transcendent ending to 62, which is just so good. But anyway, we then kind of transitions into a more specific Nagi-Erika chapter, as Erika ends up kind of having to comfort Nagi after, you know, he more than, like it's a very fair response. He embarrassed himself back there. It's absolutely like anyone would be in Nagi's position, and anyone would be feeling what Nagi is feeling right here after what he did. But again, there is this sort of vibe of Erika as like, maybe older sistery, but, like, maternal is the word that comes to mind most. And I really don't get why he's so shocked at the cola. Unless he's just shocked at the flavor of cola, because he's eventually confused about the flavor. I don't know, the cola bit is, like, I get the rest of it. But that page doesn't seem to do anything that the previous page didn't just do. You know, Erika goes to comfort him, he's shocked, and then she comforts him again, and he's shocked again. It feels like an extra page that's just not really needed. It's not really needed. It doesn't really need the weight that Yoshikawa gives it with her panel sizing. I don't know. It's just a really weird bit. But then we see some more of their like kind of flirty teasing, especially like the way that Erika's posed the like shoujo bubbles around her. It feels kind of like a flirt tease, something out of not quite not quite like Takagi-san, but like in that ballpark. Anyway, after that though, we have the continuing what the fuckness of Mr. Amano, who has some kind of goal in mind. I really don't know what he's after. What does he want? Like, I don't know. How does throwing Nagi into, like, he sets up this, I mean, the best I can figure out is that I'm trying to mesh, you know, him engaging Nagi and him getting Nagi and Erika engaged, and also kind of wink wink nudge nudge marry Sachi. And the only thing I can work out is that he's for some reason trying to put Nagi in a love triangle, but to like what end? And also, why deny the brother? I don't understand anything about this man. I just don't. And like I have enough faith in the quality of this series writing that Yoshikawa will bring it to something approximating sense at some point. But I really wish she would like do that sooner rather than later, because like he's just so weird. I do like Sachi being, and also okay, so there's this bit where Sachi is really uncomfortable about the idea of Nagi like having game, as Soichiro puts it. But like, and again, that's like a not to beat a dead horse over and over again, but Nagi and Sachi's relationship is written like siblings so well. The idea of being super embarrassed about the idea that your brother could like have girls who like him, that's a sibling move. Trust me. And so again, like I always say, they're written so much like siblings so that their less sibling moments just make no sense. But anyway, leaving that continuing nitpick aside, this is a really good chapter. I think it's a little bit more muddied in the back third after Hiro leaves, but it still all kind of works, an extra page notwithstanding. But I really like the beginning as just like, we have to talk these things out, and that's the only way we can really communicate with each other. The only way we can really understand each other is by just talking, which is kind of a recurring theme of the show. I think that might be Yoshikawa's big point, is that all these problems are kind of caused by miscommunication, and they have to be solved by communication. Which, honestly, if I had more time to think about it, I could be like, so many rom-coms and harem manga are based on miscommunication, as you know, plot points in their more minor storylines, or even their major storylines, and this is sort of a criticism or critique of that trope. Maybe I might be looking way too deep into that, or just have not really fully fleshed out that idea. Anyways, as always, a lot to think about here. But yeah, we've kind of though reverted back to something like a status quo pre 56, 57-ish when Hiro showed up. With it's just, you know, Nagi, Erika, and Sachi living together. Though Hiro especially has gone through a lot of character development the past few weeks. But now it's time for that old harem staple, the arrival of the new girl. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. You know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!